Bienvenidos, film fans across the globe. Once again, Enfuegotainment. Jaime En Fuego here, and I got some special guests with me.
I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marsha Parker.
And this is more of our ongoing coverage of 11/22/63, the new series by Hulu, and it's based on a Stephen King story. J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot producing.
I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna seem crazy. You go through there, it's 1960. I need you to prevent the assassination of John F. Kennedy. You shouldn't be here.
Lots of big hands, lots of cooks in the kitchen, but it's been damn good so far. The initial one we liked a lot. Marsha's got the insight, myself and Cecil, we're just kind of wandering through the dark on this one. So good update thus far.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I can see where they're kind of speeding up the story by leaving out a lot of the cutbacks, because in this story he actually does go back and forth a couple times before he gets his groove on.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
but
see, I was wondering that.
Yeah, so it looks like he's not going to do that. I thought he was going to do it, but I don't want to spoil the ending, but the ending
looks like he's sticking it out, huh?
He's just going to stay during that time frame. So.
But we're only 2 episodes in, so you never know.
Maybe we'll go back.
Yeah, so this was episode number 2 called The Kill Floor, and whereas the initial episode was, what, 90 minutes or 80-ish? Something like that. So presumably with commercials, a 2-hour premiere, and now we're back to the 1-hour slots for the rest of the way. But he's stuck in 1960 now, and he's got some time to kill, right, Cecil?
Yeah.
No pun intended.
And what's interesting is at the end of the last episode, he sort of left off kind of abandoning his mission. And he was going to be going back to the future, but he had to make a pit stop along the way. And that's what this episode was all about, was the pit stop.
And by him, we're talking James Franco, the lead protagonist, the guy who has jumped back in time from present day to 1960 to try to avert the death of JFK. But the problem is he's still like 3 years away. So.
Yeah. So he's got a lot of time to kill.
Yeah, we're going to use that one twice. We're going to beat that like a red-headed dead horse.
Now, Marsha, are you still down for James Franco? You said when we started this one, I forgot James Franco was in this.
Yeah, I just keep forgetting about him. But no, he's doing a fantastic job. I think he's
very James Franco in this, I gotta say.
This second episode
was way James Franco.
Yeah.
Especially when he got drunk at the bar.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was like, you could switch the beer for a joint and switch the show for Pineapple Express, and he'd be going off on the same tangent.
Yeah.
Right.
So speaking of tangents, we'll jump onto our Enfuegotainment lore just before we get too out of control here. So we always do a Bueno, a Malo, and a Feo, a good, a bad, and an ugly. And so I'm going to let Marsha rail off on the good first, and she's got the most familiarity with the character and the story. Good in episode 2, The Kill Floor. What'd you like?
I liked Harry's dad, Frank, right? Yeah.
Mr. Fergie, you mean?
I think I love to hate him. He did a fantastic job. He was big, tough, and mean. And, really made you want to hate him.
So he brought the character off the page. Is pretty good.
He had that very that role that a lot of people have in situations where, we know something about him, and we're assuming that he's behind the 8 ball, but his character is actually a little bit smarter than we give him credit for. So he's a little bit further ahead of the ball than you might think, which makes for interesting interplay and events over the course of the episode.
Yeah, but he being smarter, he's almost kind of toying with Franco a little bit, because you wonder at one point halfway through the episode where he's taken to, because Frank's character is a butcher, and so started out in the slaughterhouse, he's moved his way up, but he's an abuser. He likes to hit his wife, his kids, and Franco's character is basically trying to avert people from dying. In the very first episode, one of his students, all grown up, tells a sad story about his family getting killed by his dad, and so that's what Franco has that's a little spoilerific perhaps, but if you didn't watch the first episode, you probably shouldn't be watching the second episode review. So we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, that's what Franco is trying. He's trying to be noble and not just kill time by doing nothing. He's trying to actually stop somebody from being killed, and
and he's trying to change the future for Harry too. He's a character you find out in the beginning that he's not quite right because of what happened to him when he was younger, what his dad did to him and his family. Yeah. And at the end you kind of get that aha moment. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of a spoiler. Yeah, what he's trying to do.
I'm spoiling all.
So yeah, what he's trying to do, I guess he succeeds in, but you don't know necessarily if he did, right, Cecil?
Yeah, because there's repercussions for everything that Franco does when he's back in time, and it's
Time like stuff.
pushback, exactly. And so much so that we found out why the original character that we spoke about in the last episode that sent him through the portal, basically
Cooper,
what happened,
I think
Chris
is the name of
Cooper
the actor,
went back in time and was back in time for 2 years, and he went back in with a clean bill of health, but when he came back, he had cancer. So,
So he had gone to the doctor right before, said he's fine, and then after 2 years in like the weird portal of sorts, he comes back.
Comes back with cancer, which he estimates, and he tells Franco this in a flashback, which is an interesting bit of information that the cancer he feels was time pushing back in a big way for him trying to change a particular set of events back in the day. So now that...
I think maybe like a bigger change would have a bigger pushback, smaller changes, they wouldn't push as hard.
Right, yeah, that's what you're kind of led to believe, but then there's a big change as far as we know at the end of this episode, and we don't know what the pushback might be. So actually, I was going to use that to segue into, or to talk about my bueno, is that I like that this episode was veering away, like a lot of TV series, they have the main storyline, right? Like the X-Files has the A and then the B storyline.
Yeah, they talked about that on South Park was where I learned about that.
This is one of those B storylines. It's doesn't have to do with the main plot. It's not the aliens and X-Files. It's one of the Creature of the Week episodes, so to speak. But luckily, why I want to mention it in my bueno is because it was still just as intriguing, if not slightly more so for me.
Yeah, and I can piggyback on that. Is my bueno is that it was cool in the first episode to have this big grand idea for a show, but I kind of liked when they got smaller, more personal, and more quaint. It felt a lot more Stephen King-esque because King, maybe sometimes to his detriment, he likes to flesh out real believable characters, and sometimes he overdoes it, and you're like, oh man, how long is this chapter where I'm learning about this person? But this really kind of pulled things back a little bit, and you got that personal touch, and I mean, the menace of Fergie's husband to, even Franco seeing some of his stupidity, vulnerability, and just second-guessing himself a little bit, and he's kind of walking blind now because he lost all of that information that was helping him on the trail, and so now he's kind of going back through those recollections with Chris Cooper's character, trying so desperately to remember, what am I doing next? What's the next step? Because he's still got a couple years, but tons of work to be done in the meantime, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm excited. So now we eventually have to get into the Malo, some bad stuff about the episode. I can go on him saying Franco being a little more like Franco in this. It took me out a little bit at times, but Franco does have acting chops, as we've seen, and stuff like he cut his arm off in 127 hours, right? That was him. Yeah, so I know the guy can act, and I don't doubt that in any shape or form, but when he was getting into those Francoisms, that's when I felt like I was watching the Pineapple Express dude, and as opposed to a high school teacher who's gone back in time. Any bad for you, Marcia?
Well, I didn't appreciate the animal brutality.
That'd be more like a Feo and ugly. Because that hit all of us. There was like silence when it's going on.
It's kind of sad, but go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, if you don't really have a particular Malo, I don't have much of one. The only thing I would say is what I mentioned before, where we think that Franco has the edge, but in the back of our minds, we're wondering, does the other guy actually have the edge? My Malo is that we've seen that before a number of times.
There's a lot of cliched tropes in this episode.
Exactly. So it just didn't have the impact that I imagined they were hoping it would have. But, if that's my only Malo, it's not terribly bad.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're not going back and forth, where he gets to plan and kind of scope everything out, figure out the best plan of action to eliminate Frank with less carnage.
It's an interesting dynamic because you're hinting at some things, and it makes me wonder, whereas this is more like a trial by fire, he's kind of learning on the fly. It was more so trial and error.
Yeah, because he had limited information. The only information he had when it came to helping out Harry and eliminating Frank to save the family was the story that this guy who not quite there had written. So that's all he had to go by. He had no idea what Frank was like or how to approach him and things like that. So.
Whereas in this, he just walked right in and was like, he drops the name and it sends him on that little story thread and stuff.
I have a theory as to why they can't have him going back and forth like they might have in the book, and that's they just flat don't have time to have him come
That's what I'm
back and
saying.
wait
Yeah.
until the events come up again. Because then it would be he goes through and then he has to come back at that exact same moment that he always comes through the portal at, and then he has to wait all the way until these events occur again. And how are they going to do that in the show? Like
No.
a speed up or quick cuts and stuff?
In the
It's-
book, it doesn't happen a lot. Just in the, like I think it was just like a couple times he went back and forth,
Yeah.
and then when he was like, okay, I'm going to do the long haul, then he does the whole long haul.
Yeah.
But he learns a lot during the back and forth a little bit.
I'll be
something
interested
was
to see
gonna
if they
be-
do it.
Yeah, if something was going to be omitted, though, I guess that seems like the most likely
just,
to
who
be
needs
omitted.
to go back
you
and
know?
forth like that. They don't need to see that. So, but you still have to kind of help us guide through that bell curve because there's going to be a learning curve there.
Sure.
Yeah, that's back to Stephen King being a slow burn. You know, I've heard a Malo by some people, and maybe it's a good for others. We haven't seen it yet. There's a character that introduces himself into Franco's life, and he seems to be teaming up, and I've been told that that is one thing that's different than in the book. And so maybe, I mean, don't spoil anything, but do you think this dynamic could work? He seems like he's going to partner up with him, maybe?
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. It's going to be one of those things that I'm going to learn.
This could be
I
a
don't
fail
know.
because changing those type of things to make it adaptable, that could be ugly for people who read the book
now
first,
you
like
have
you.
somebody that is in that time period who knows that he's from the future, and I don't know. And he's
It adds
obviously not
drama that he has to now convince someone.
stable. Yeah.
There's scenes that they're going to get out of it that they wouldn't have otherwise.
I think they're probably going to use that as kind of a crutch to get him through it, but we'll see.
I could see that.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not gonna call it a fail until I know it is one.
We're going to wait it out and see how it works.
I'll tell you in a couple weeks.
Okay, well there you go. Fail for me. You know, they captured the tone at the very, very beginning of the episode. Pretty much like a Stand By Me type vibe with with Harry being picked on by the other
never
kids
saw that.
and stuff. And
Never seen it.
Never seen Stand By
Never
Me?
seen it. No. believe it
Oh
or
man,
not.
it really gave that some. You've seen Stand By Me, right? Yeah, with the kids picking on him. I mean, not that that's prevalent in Stand By Me, but just kids being kids, and also a little bit of a Stephen King's It type vibe too.
Yeah, I
just
got
the,
that vibe.
The period and all
I
that.
think it's the striped shirt that the kid was wearing.
Maybe I don't know. Walking, parading around in his undies and white tighties,
I thought
getting
it
picked
was a
on.
little unnecessary myself because it really didn't make any relevance.
It didn't
to the
serve
story.
a lot of function. No.
Just to show that
Just
the
show that
kids
he's bullied.
being-
Another Feo is Fergie's husband. He actually, beyond just really doing his thing, he actually kind of struck fear in me a little bit. I felt Franco's fear of him as a viewer because he was damn menacing.
He was
I
mean.
thought that he actually stole the show for me in this particular episode.
Yeah.
He was a very good abusive father character. There's some that just kind of phone it in, but he's like genuinely menacing.
'Cause
And
Despite playing a cliche, I mean,
Right,
he
it
actually
wasn't-
brought his own touch to it. And
Yeah,
did a
it
good job.
wasn't just
he was
like,
ugly. for
This
the good,
guy, it's
good
not
way.
just like a father that's okay. I'm drunk and bumbling and falling, and then I kill my wife and children. Like he was like cool, collective, and like, here's my mallet, and there's your face. Like you don't see that a lot of abusive things, and especially when they're like, oh, he's drunk, so he's mean drunk, and you're thinking, oh, it's just another guy, a wife beater, like probably no.
Cliche.
Yeah.
No,
but
he was mean to the bone.
and also being a little bit sharper and smarter, I think that gave another more
It's an extra edge.
multifaceted edge to the character.
Yeah.
The one last thing that I have to mention, unless you guys have any more Feos, is that
I haven't even said one yet.
okay. Well, let's get to you then, man. Damn.
My fail is gonna be sort of reflective of my fail from the first episode, which was when the show decided to remind us as viewers just how bad our past has been, and this episode had another moment very similar to that. There's a character that had to tell a war story, and
No, you beat
yeah.
me to my Feo. Then. But no, that's good.
yeah,
Lay it down.
there was this character had to talk to James Franco, and he opted. James Franco found out that he had a Bronze Star from World War II, and eventually a female character leaves the room, and this older male decides to tell Franco the story of how he got the Bronze Star, and it essentially boils down to calling a man brave for killing another man isn't really brave, you know. And he tells this long story that just is pretty heart-wrenching, and Franco's silent like glassy stare, like he's welling up a little bit, and it's just so effective. And the guy telling the story is like breaking at a couple of moments, and it was just so well done. It's
you see his lip like quivering as
Yeah.
he's remembering it. I mean, Stephen King has always been fond of having an old character tell an old story, but this one was damn effective. I mean, you were transported right into his psyche, and you got that vibe of it's not brave, it's desperate. It's kind of, I don't know, there's something dark to
it's
killing
self-preservation more than bravery.
Well, in his case, it wasn't either. He could have just kept going, but
Right.
it was more of a kind of like a revenge factor. I'm just gonna kill this guy.
Yeah.
And I think it was really effective for Franco's character, Jake, because he knows that that's what he's gonna have to do. He's never actually killed anybody before, but he's going
he bought the gun, so he's working towards it.
In order to actually do it, and actually save the family, he knows he's probably gonna have to kill somebody for it.
He's gonna break some eggs
It's a
to make
moment
an
for
omelet.
him to realize it's a real thing, and it's something he's gonna have to carry with him for the rest of his life. And I think that's the lesson he learned from that story.
Yeah.
So that scene was brought to the screen well. It was.
I thought it was really well. I didn't think it wasn't a fail, but I understand why you're saying it's a fail. It's
No, I
because-
mean,
Feo
can be good or bad.
It's just
Yeah.
something
Fuego's
really
reviews, yeah.
ugly and grisly, or
Yeah.
just something that sticks out and sticks with you. You know, because bad is sometimes forgettable. You're like, oh, that's so bad. I don't even want to remember that. So yeah, I would say it's really maintaining the pace. It's enthralling, and I'm very excited for next week's installment because they're not letting us binge watch this all at once. They're doing it episodically. Every Monday, a new episode, and every Tuesday we're getting together and we're reviewing these for you guys. So.
Yeah.
I get to extend a grande gracias to both Cecil and to Marcia, my co-hosts from the horror show. We have loads of fun covering all the scarific stuff. Cecil's going to give you the rundown on that. It's our YouTube show, and it is Bala.
It's at youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. We are The Horror Show. It's a horror variety show. We do movie reviews, how-tos, comedy sketches, celebrity interviews, con coverage, let's plays, anything under the sun that has to do with the horror genre, you can find it there. So go ahead and check us out.
And then obviously I got to extend a grande gracias to Marcia once more. She's going to be along the entirety of the way for this Stephen King coverage. So appreciate having you, girl.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
We're
awesome.
already a quarter of the way through. Can you
I
believe
know.
it?
Oh, I
yeah.
can't believe it.
Yep, 2 episodes in, and it's looking great. I'm engaged and enthralled and can't wait for more, like I said. So I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can always find me at all those social media silly sectors of Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and here on YouTube, just at Jaime En Fuego. Once again, I extend a grande gracias to my hosts here with me, and also to you viewers for checking this out. We got more coverage of 11/22/63 coming at you as the weeks go by. So until then, adios sin amigos, and I hope to see you soon, but let's not make it too long. Peace.
Stay edgy.
I can't remember. I had something that I was formulating for a while. Stay edgy, motherfuckers.
Peace.
Peace, bitch.